You know what that music is, so it's time for another Adam Spectacular. Sorry, this is the companion piece to the draft recap, kind of. This is the free agency pre-cap, if you will, as with the new salary rules, with the new double tax, triple tax, tax upon tax, luxury tax, do not pass go tax, the well runs dry much quicker than it ever has before. So you're seeing players get snatched up awfully quick because there's no, well, you should hold out for a better deal because there's no better deal left because every team is running out of money. For example, the Boston Celtics signed Mitchell Robinson, hard caps him on the first tier. So, we only have to the penny to spend, and that's how Dallas and New York runs their operations every day. So, with that said, you have players taking mysteriously lower value deals just to be on a team early. And then you have a couple actual head scratchers, unlike the draft where it was just clickbait head scratchers, as everyone kind of did well. Not all the players are going to do anything, but they got who they wanted. So I think kind of where we're at right now when I'm taping this, we are kind of, we've drank from your well, sir. As of this recording, the top free agents left are Rui Hachimura, Anthony Simons, Jonathan Kuminga, Chris Middleton, Bruce Brown, Marvin Bagley, Jeremy Sohan, Ochai Agbaji, Jair Williams, Quentin Post, Bruce Brown. See what I'm getting at here? Outside of Hachimura, Simons, and Kuminga, those are the sort of the last two drop. All the free agents kind of have been spoken for in this game of musical chairs. So let me just go over with you real quick here whom went where. Not whom lost who. We should have Andrew back at our normal scheduled time next week to give his analysis, grades, and opinions. I'm just giving you kind of the facts and cold takes. So let us start in the East, shall we? I've mentioned the Boston Celtics signing Mitchell Robinson away from the Knicks, whom day one you knew they were going to lose him because James Dolan said, yeah, I'm not paying the double tax. So, well, we knew you couldn't afford him. Out he goes, and you better hope Cat stays healthy because there's currently no big man backup there, and there's no money left for them to find a big man backup. So anyways, Boston got Mike Conley, ancient Mike Conley, 1 year minimum. Ron Harper Jr., 3 years, $9 million, kind of a minimum deal. And then Mitchell Robinson, like I said, thus capping him at the first apron. People I've talked to don't really understand the Conley signing. I'm putting my tinfoil hat on saying he might need to train Pritchard how to be a point guard as opposed to just a small combo guard because somebody might be traded and they might need him as point guard services. Anywho, Brooklyn, like we said in the draft half, you got Randall for Claxton, essentially. You bring back Josh Minot, 2 years, $9 million. Day'Ron Sharpe, you bring back 2 years, $20 million. And here's two curious ones. You get Keon Ellis, 2 years, $18 million, and Mo Wagner, 2 years, $19 million, with dual options, which I don't even know is possible. I believed that it was you could only have a player option or a team option. You can only have one in your contract, not both. They have double options, both a player and a team, sort of a Wonder Twin Powers activate type deal, where if one of the two opts into the deal is still good, which is very, very strange if one side decides to opt out of that, which I'm expecting. Actually, I'm kind of expecting both those players to sort of move on, and that's the new team's problem. But very strange to put that in a contract, which I've never seen. New York, as we said, lost Mitchell Robinson. They bring back Mohamed Diawara. They bring back Grand Theft Alvarado, and they bring back Landry Shamet. You're the champion, so slowly you're going to get pieces picked away, and Robinson was the first little chip off the iceberg. Philly Philly, let's get into Philly for a quick second. I'm putting them early on blast as just the biggest loser of free agency. The only two signings they've done thus far are Ariel Hukporti, 1 year minimum from, I believe, New York, yes. And then Dean Wade from Cleveland, 4 years, $39 million. However, that Dean Wade signing, they lost Jared McCain because they had to dump him for salary tax purposes to Oklahoma City for nothing. And then, well, that was to keep Quentin Grimes, whom they lose anyways. So you've replaced Grimes and McCain with Dean Wade. Oh, yeah, and you lost Kelly Oubre, too. So not looking good in the city of brotherly love. Toronto, as I think that came after I taped it, the big Kawhi trade happened. Kawhi goes back to Toronto, where he's beloved, and he's going to sign another 2-year max deal. All it cost him was Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, whom was going to be cut anyways. So Ingram and a slew of picks. So good on Toronto for really improving, kind of. And you lose Mamushvili, but in the end, they had to do something, and that roster you couldn't keep that roster going. And to upgrade from Ingram, thinking it would have been RJ Barrett, the one you're going to flip, not too shabby. They just re-signed Elijah Martin, and they let Jonathan Mogbo go, who, again, that's also a very strange case that I can't figure out. With you had Grady Dick and Mogbo, like really like solid pieces of the garbage team 2 years ago. They get more competitive. Both those guys disappear. So, question mark. Chicago's very tricky here. They just happened to fall upon Nick Claxton, who was just bequeathed upon them in the Minnesota Julius Randle salary dumping. Then they're getting all Indiana Pacers on us and go, let's go Bruce Brown. Let's go sign Norman Powell for 2 years, $45 million with a team option. Well, they're not going to keep him. Nobody's going to take it. That's just for salary matching purposes. That's just a placeholder. That is very smart business, which I don't expect from Chicago, especially considering what they've been doing and how they assembled that roster at the end. Cleveland, they're going to re-sign Harden at whatever number. They re-signed Thomas Bryant, waiting for big pieces to fall. It appears, like we mentioned in the postmortem, you got to do something, and the time seems to be now to do it. Detroit, don't know what they're doing. You jettison beef stew. You send Isaiah Stewart in a salary dump to Memphis for nothing. You have this Jalen Duren stalemate now, whom they're just hoping to get any sort of discount and not pay a max deal. You get Kevin Huerter for 3 years, $27 million traded for him. Again, that's a cheaper deal than what he got, but he also was terrible in Detroit. And then you use that beef stew money to get John Collins, whom I still think is underrated. And he didn't fit in the Clippers, but I think he's a solid, at least a character upgrade over Detroit. But I don't think they're done, especially with Kevin Huerter's not replacing Tobias Harris, and you don't have a replacement for him. So got to do something. Indiana had that big Ivica Zubac. So, like, if this happened on draft day, if they said we'll trade his number 5 for Ivica Zubac and a future first, that would be a lot different than the fact that it happened in February. Because Ivica Zubac was better than anybody who they possibly could have drafted, considering it was all guards and they didn't need a guard who wouldn't have fit anyways. Anywho, they poached Kelly Oubre from Indiana to replace Benedict Mathurin, kind of. 2 years, $17 million. That seems to be his going rate. I believe that's what he signed $216 at Philly, and then he had a 2-year deal at Charlotte before that, I think. Milwaukee, Kevin Porter Jr. opted into his $4.5 million. We've mentioned the Tyler Hero, Yakashunis, Kyle Ware additions, the 2 draft pick Burries and Ament. And re-signed Osman Dang for 3 years, $17 million. Kind of just like a mid-lottery pick rookie deal. So they have a roster now, which hopefully they can do something, as opposed to the and Tino Kupo brothers, as Thanasis, I believe, has already gone back to Europe, and Costas you will not see again, most likely. Moving on to the South, Atlanta was gifted Devin Carter and a second-round pick because Sacramento can't not be Sacramento. They also re-signed Jock Landale to a 1-year, $14 million deal. Seems to be quite a little higher than I would expect. And, they re-signed McCollum, I believe. And they let Kuminga go. As I mentioned, he's the best free agent, one of the best free agents available left. Don't really understand that whole, let's trade Porzingis for him, and then I don't know if he was injured in Atlanta, and we're just going to not bother with him. Charlotte, we've said previous episode, Kobe White, 3-4, 74, and they got Naz Reid from the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's a very big team all of a sudden. Miami got Giannis. Miami got Wiggins, who I guess opted in to his $30 million, and then got a 2-year, $20 million, 2-year, $30 million on it. Something weird. But they got him back. Simone Fontecchio for a 1-year minimum deal. Tim Hardaway, 1 year, $6.5 million. And you lose Norman Powell. And like I said in the draft episode, you're going to see Westbrook's name start to pop up. You might see every sort of big name free agent I could go there. And Orlando, we said they had to do some things. They fired their coach. They did make some moves. First, they cut Jonathan Isaac, who was guaranteed $8 million, then re-signed him for the veteran minimum. So does that mean he got an $11 million deal? Or is just the $8 million dead money and now the $3 million is new? I don't know. They re-signed Javon Carter, 1 year minimum. And another surprising minimum, they brought back Nikola Vucevic for a 1-year minimum deal. Now, his stock sunk so hard. I mean, for Orlando, it's a great deal because if he has anything left in the tank, which he didn't in Boston, but he was fine in Chicago. So, and he also injured his thumb in the third game with the Celtics. But Nikola Vucevic, 1-year minimum deal for Orlando. Washington was quiet after they gave Trae Young his money because I don't think they have any roster spots left, actually. They're kind of no room at the end, especially with their last draft picks and everything. Let's move out west. Let's start in the South. Dallas has done nothing, to my knowledge. They've kind of stand pat. I don't know what they're doing, but they have not done anything to my knowledge. Houston, always their names. That team always has their names in rumors. Got Bogdanovic, who was injured and had an off year at the Clippers. Then again, who didn't have an off year with the Clippers? 1-year minimum deal, and they poached Marcus Smart from the Lakers, returning him with Ime Udoka, 2 years, $12 million. Memphis didn't sign anybody, but did you need to sign anybody? You were gifted Beef Stewart. You got Jeremy Grant. You got Jeremy Grant in a trade. You got Chris Murray, who is a body. You got rid of John Morant, which I think was the biggest thing, and you didn't have to attach picks. That's kind of the problem with this era's salary rules of, I think if there weren't strict penalties, you could have shipped him out, and some team be like, yeah, I'll take a flyer on his contract and just wait till it burns out. But now that since they have to pay extras and they can't do other things with it, it's become a lot more restrictive. That's why, like I said, seems very strange that you see a couple players sign little below average deals for them, I think, just to get themselves in and happy. New Orleans, I'm sorry, Andrew. All you did is just re-sign DeAndre Jordan. Womp, womp, womp. San Antonio re-signed Harrison Barnes, 1 year, $8 million. That's a quite steep discount on what he was getting the previous contract, wasn't it? I think he's a little more than an $8 million player. I mean, he's kind of long in the tooth, but really? $8 million? That's all it took? Whatever. And Tobias Harris, 2 years, $31 million to San Antonio, beefing up that front court even more. They're just going to be a very big team all of a sudden. So that just sucks the well dry even more for people looking for somebody. Okay, moving on to the little further west, a little further north. Denver did absolutely nothing, which is par for the course for Denver, as they have no money to do anything. And you just watch that championship team just get whittled away the way Toronto did. They tried last year. They got Hardaway Jr. and Bruce Brown back, and that didn't work. So the pieces are just, the wheels are coming off of Denver. You had to jettison Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson to save some money, and now they're looking to shave off more money, and I think we might be able to say Denver might be done. Minnesota, as we said in the draft episode, big LaMelo Ball splash. Surely not going to backfire. No. And with that, I mentioned Dosunmu got 5 years, $112 million, which now looks very suspect, unless you're going to move Ant to the 3. And it's just like, what are you doing? Bones Highland seems to have found a home. They re-signed him 1 year minimum deal, and Jaylen Clark, they re-signed 3 years, $10 million. Oklahoma City picked up Lou Dort's option, and Hartenstein signed him for 3 years, $75 million. We said one of those two were going to have to go, but we realized they shipped out other pieces, whom I did not mention. Oh, they traded. Oh, they got. See, I know I always forget like one particular group, and this year it happens to be Oklahoma City. Yeah, I'd said many times, even in the postmortems, you can't keep Hartenstein and Dort. And it turns out they shipped out Isaiah Joe to the Pistons for a couple second-round picks. So that freed up some money for them. So that's Detroit's shooter that I completely missed over. I told you, I always forget one. Portland got Ja Morant. They re-signed Robert Williams 4 years, $44 million, I believe, which is good for him if he could stay healthy, which he never has, but good for him. And then they got Brandon Carlson, who I believe was a big man who played sparingly for Oklahoma City. Utah loses Walker Kessler. Should I say loses, or do they sell high on him? I guess time will only tell. They got nothing back. We'll get to that with the Lakers who got him. But they did re-sign backup Joseph Nurkic, who was fairly solid for them when before he had that nose injury or something. I don't remember, but that's Utah. Moving on to the West now. We got Golden State, who reportedly was all in. We're gonna get AD. We're gonna get LeBron. We're gonna bring the band back together. So what do you wind up doing? You're bringing back Draymond Green at a lower number. You re-sign Al Horford, 2 years, $13 million. You re-sign D'Anthony Melton, 2 years, $11 million. And then you re-sign Porzingis, 2 years, $40 million. I know they're going to be all 2-year deals because that's when they turn back to pumpkins at midnight 2 years from now. But really? Those are the three guys you wanted? Clippers, like we mentioned, you get Grady Dick. Why not? He was good his second year. He was developing his first year, good his second year, disappeared his third year, and now he gets a chance to do something. And you get Brandon Ingram, who's always been solid when healthy. So, and you get draft picks. So you got 2 picks from the Pacers. You got 2 picks from the Raptors. You've rebuilt that war chest of they had nothing. So their desperation is kind of over. And oh yeah, they re-signed Kobe Saunders 4 years, $11 million. So things aren't looking too bad for the Clippers. The Lakers, ESPN is in mourning. They probably have a black stripe over their over their logo as LeBron is gone. LeBron said he's leaving. So they didn't waste time in spending all his money. Like I mentioned, they traded for Walker Kessler 4 years, $130 million with a player option in the fourth year. Sandro Mamushvili, kind of giving me a little Timofey Mozgov vibes. They signed him for 4 years, 52. I mean, he deserved more, but that's a lot more. Austin Reeves, we had mentioned earlier, he signed his max 4 years, 184. And then they got Colin Sexton, 2 years, 19 million. And then Quentin Grimes, 4 years, 60 million, which I said how Philly was a loser for letting him go. So there goes LeBron's money. That's what they did. Phoenix, we've mentioned their solid singles and doubles. Jordan Goodwin, 2 years, 19 million. Colin Gillespie, 4 years, 48. Mark Williams, 3 years, 38. Luke Kennard, 2 years, 12. And they got Miles Bridges from Charlotte. And all it took to give up was Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. Okay. People are hating on Phoenix. The experts are giving big old D- and C- to Phoenix for that, but you got the best player of the deal, and Devin Booker doesn't have a number 2 op player, so you got somebody who can play and put up numbers. I'm not against it. And, oh yeah, speaking of the losers, we saved them for last. Sacramento, I like the things that they did, but when you have to give up Devin, you have to give a second to get rid of Devin Carter to stay out of the tax. You have nobody on your team. You got Acuff and you got Murray, and that's it. And Sabonis, who might come back to form, I don't know. But he was also hurt. So, anywho, they re-signed Precious Achiuwa, 2 years, 11 million. Good signing. He was pretty good. And then Jonathan Mogbo, who apparently I'm the only one who has backed Mogbo from watching him 2 years ago, just sort of be a hustle guy. They signed him to a 2-way deal. Why not? He should get minutes there. So, anywho, that is the pre-agency recap. As you see, the well has kind of run dry. I know by the time I hit stop on this, I guarantee Kuminga will sign somewhere, or Anthony Simons. I could have sworn I saw something that Simons was signing with Miami, but that must have fallen through with Wiggins or something. I don't know. But anywho, Hachimura, Simons, and Kuminga, that's all you got left. So I don't know how many teams have money left or willing to spend money left. I mean, Hachimura should get a legit deal somewhere, but I could see Kuminga get another 2 years, 45 million team option again, just for salary matching purposes. So, yeah, things were kind of fast and furious. I mean, there should be some trades coming down the pike, which Andrew and myself should go over. Yeah, and he'll be back to give his grades and his winners and losers. This was just sort of I believe I did this last year. Just let's get these numbers out here so we don't need to be bogged down with it. All right, you heard that music again, so that means, unfortunately, it is me, I guess, finishing this trilogy of just an off-season recap. It was funny. I had just recorded everything, as I kept saying. This is happening in real time. I'm ready to upload it. Okay, Tobias Harris was the last one. I believe the news came that he signed right when I was editing it. So I'm like, okay, I can quickly take out all the mentions of how he's one of the best guys left. And okay, that's cool. Then I'm uploading it. I'm writing the description. And then all of a sudden I get the ESPN alert. Oh, breaking news. Jaylen Brown's been traded. Wait, what? And then I immediately thought of two things. First, much like every other Celtics fan, his Twitter's been hacked again, hasn't it? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And then I thought, just more locally for this, oh yeah, my freezing cold take of the 76ers were the losers of free agency thus far, that's already just completely aged horribly. And it's not even out. It's going to be out within the next hour, because I'm like, I can't even save it to the morning. I just need to push it out and say, I'm done with it for the week. I throw my hands up and go, okay, I'll take the L immediately. First, let me get into the Jaylen stuff before I continue. Oh, actually, no, let's do an intro. Welcome to the NBA team. It is summer, therefore the southern United States is riddled with heat storms. And unfortunately, Mr. Riche's power is out. Therefore, he is incapacitated. And then, therefore, it is unfortunately another episode of me. Yes, I'm also getting tired of listening to myself a ton. It is getting kind of old. But anywho, back to the original story. So I'm, much like every other Celtics fan and basketball fan, trying to wrap my head around this because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you, A, when you're asking for 4 first-round picks, you're asking for everything, and you have the rumors of this team was offering this and this team was offering this, but they wanted completely unrealistic expectations, and then you trade them 36-year-old Paul George, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a pick swap. Oh, that's cool. Do they get the Clippers pick? No. Let me get this straight. You had a rumored, we'll say Charlotte offering a package around Naz Reid and like 2 or 3 first-round picks, and they're like, no, we want way more. And then you're going to trade to a division rival, which you don't do unless they overpay. And then you trade for a player whose contract is already a negative asset, and Philly was actively shopping him with a pick attached. So you're saying we got the guy they were trying to get rid of, the division rival, for Jaylen Brown, who was a all-second NBA player this year, and I'm going to ignore all the character assassinations and all the experts and insiders on the interwebs, who are the smartest people in the room, of course. They know everything that's been going on. They know, how bad Jaylen Brown's. And, don't forget, statistically, using metrics, he was the 7th best player on the team. Just for reference, who was the second best player on the Celtics this past year? Hugo Gonzalez, who played 14 minutes. So you're saying that the guy who played 14 minutes and didn't play every game is way better. That's the problem with metrics and advanced statistics. Also, if I had more initiative, I would have pulled the Kenny Atkinson quote saying, according to analytics, we should be up right now on the Knicks. And then you had, for those followers of the World Cup, Canada going, oh yeah, we were definitely the better team against Morocco. Morocco won 3-0. And for non-soccer fans, basically 1-0 is kind of like an insurmountable lead. And they lost 3-0. But of course, they were the better team who lost 0-3. That's just a blowout. Oh, well, they're down 2-0 and that you lost 3-0. You played hard the first half, and then the second half, Morocco just kicked it into high gear and moved on. But anywho, the trade does not make sense for Celtics fans. Brad Stevens has a track record of winning most of his trades. Look at the Porzingis trade from DC that helped them win the championship. Then you ship out Porzingis for nothing, and Porzingis didn't add anything to Atlanta or Golden State due to his health problems. Yeah, you took a major misstep with Anthony Simons for Vucevic, who did nothing, but who would have guessed that? You had a volume shooter in Simons, who you had tons of those in the team, so he was easily replaced when you needed size, so you got size. However, he didn't offer anything because he got injured in 3 games and was just highly ineffective. But you're trading it to your rival for a player who they were ready to get rid of anyways and tried to and was offering draft compensation. So you essentially gave Jaylen Brown for kind of nothing. And the only logic I can have in my head is sabotage. I'm going to give him to Philly. They can't, because Jaylen's going to want an extension. They can't afford to pay Jaylen $70 million. He can't afford to pay Embiid $70 million. Maxey's max contract. VJ Edgecombe looks like he's going to get paid. Well, you can't keep them all, so they can't handle it. And you have a top-heavy team. You can't have any bench. And I don't know. That's the only plausible explanation other than more moves are coming. Like, why are you having Derek White on your team? And I'm ignoring all the rumors of, well, they think Peyton Pritchard could be Jalen Brunson, and Jaylen Brown freelanced too much on the 3-1 playoff loss. Freelance from what? Run down the court and jack up a three as fast as possible? Because that's all they seem to do, and that's Joe Mazzulla's, is he doesn't really... They just jack threes up, and if the threes aren't hitting... well, we shot them. They didn't fall. What can you do? We're waiting for the moratorium to end in July 6th when all the players can actually sign, as opposed to the legal tampering and the pre-legal tampering and the tampering. For them to explain what is your logic for this, because not only are you making your team worse, you're making a direct competitor better, because Toronto got better, Philly got better, Miami got better. Indiana's going to be better now that Halliburton's back and you got Zubac. What did you do? You're just sinking with Milwaukee and Chicago. Maybe unrealistic expectation because they overachieved this past year, but this trade needs more trades to happen for it to make sense. Kind of like the way Minnesota dumped Julius Randle for absolutely nothing. I mean, they got the rights to somebody whom I couldn't even tell you. But Minnesota dumped Randall in order to make this huge trade for LaMelo Ball. Is it going to be a good trade? The jury is extremely out, but you knew the second move was coming. So there has to be something more here. You can't just go into your team this year, because you can easily have an AD situation, as the Boston crowd could turn on Paul George quite easily. And the second he gets injured, there goes your team chemistry, there goes everything, and then you just have this really bad environment. So yeah, okay. Their window closed. Their window is sort of shut, and boarded up. But for everything the Celtics I've listened to about them from the local insiders, the prevailing consensus is we will give Brad Stevens benefit of the doubt. He needs to come out and explain this. If he comes out like Nico Harrison and is like, well, this is a great trade, we're going to be better. Oh, it's not going to go over well. It was just funny. I think the last time I did a solo episode, I had uploaded it, and within an hour, there was a huge trade that happened again. And I'm like, oh, man. These are just tons of things saying I shouldn't be doing this by myself. But here I am yet again. So let's get into where we stopped off. And I know exactly the minute I stopped off. So, all right, Memphis had a glut of big men, as we said. They got Isaiah Stewart. They drafted Cam Boozer. So what are you going to do with all these big men? They traded Santi Aldama to Dallas for A.J. Johnson, who was Milwaukee's first-round pick and didn't work there a couple years ago. A first and 2 seconds. Santi Aldama's been pretty good. He was hurt last year. But Dallas seemed to be a pretty good pickup. But wait a minute. Dallas has a ton of big men. I don't know what they're doing. They got Gafford, and they got Lively, and they got Adama now. I don't know. Anywho, we had mentioned previously how Philly and Denver did nothing. Denver adds a pair of Tyus Jones, who really, after Washington, just fell off the wagon. I really bought into him in Phoenix, saying he was the missing piece. He was going to sort of be the glue guy and keep that team together, and everything just fell apart. And he hasn't done anything since. And then Marvin Bagley, who was in Dallas, big man. Not his fault he was drafted second above Luka and Trae Young. He didn't pick it. Sacramento's fault. A lot of things are Sacramento's fault. It's not a bad player, but they got him to replace Valanciunas in a minimum deal. So that's a very good signing for Denver, who lost Brown and Hardaway Jr. Hardaway Jr., I'll get to him in a second. Philly gets Anthony Simons, who, for $6 million, essentially. 2 years, $12 million player option. You know he's going to opt out, but you get him for a bargain. What are you doing? That's what happens. You get Jaylen Brown. And LeBron's even thinking about going to Cleveland now. Well, of course he should. That team's good on paper. You have an angry Jaylen Brown. You have two guards, and the team will unfortunately go as Embiid goes. If Embiid's unhealthy, you got no bench, so you got to do something. Old man Kyle Anderson, Speedy McGee, went to Toronto to replace old man Garrett Temple, who decided to become an assistant coach for Dallas. Kenrick Williams got his option declined, I believe, and then he just re-signed with Oklahoma City for $5 million. Houston, out of money, but somehow find 5 years, $81 million for Tari Eason. That included the player option, so really a 4-year deal. And Tari Eason reportedly not very happy with it and left some very negative comments on the Twitter. I know earlier they'd offered him more. It was like maybe 4 and 100, but there was non-guaranteed years. So this was the most guaranteed money, but he's not happy nonetheless. Bones Highland re-signed in Minnesota, which I think I've already mentioned. Elijah Martin re-signed in Toronto. Nemias Queta got a 4-year, $56 million extension in Boston, which is a great pay raise from his veteran minimum because he was on a 2-way deal, got promoted to that, and this year he's going to make $2 million, and then after that he's going to start making $14-15 million, which, okay, you spent money on him, you spent money on Mitchell Robinson. What are you doing with Paul George? You didn't save any money with him, but yet, what's going on? In the mystery machine department, obviously getting Walker Kessler, that means nobody wanted DeAndre Ayton on the Lakers anymore, who opted into his $8 million deal, which they probably said, please don't. So DeAndre Ayton gets traded to Washington, who already has Anthony Davis, who already has Tristan Vucevic, who already has Alex Sarr, for Jaden Hardy, who wasn't, he was expendable anyways, came over from Dallas, I believe, wasn't in their plans, and 2 second-round picks. So what appears to be a roster dump for LA, you get 2 draft picks back. That doesn't really. You had teams like New York were desperate for a center and could have sent out somebody. I don't know who, but you get, what's Washington giving up 2-round picks? Don't you already have enough big men? I'm not quite understanding that, if you will. Oh yes, Andre Drummond went from Philly to New York on a $3 million deal. Oh yeah, and a couple more. Houston, as I mentioned, was out of money because he gave Tari Eason a new deal and signed Marcus Smart and Bogdanovic. They shipped out Dorian Finney-Smith and 3 second-round picks to Charlotte. So Charlotte has I think a billion second-round picks right now. Caleb Love, as we saw in Portland, really outplayed his 2-way contract, really did really well. Portland was cheap, didn't bring him on the plane because he was out of games for the playoffs. He went to Philly too. So Philly got Dean Wade, Philly got Anthony Simons, Philly got Caleb Love, and you got Vijay Edgecombe, and you got Maxey. Okay. They seem to do very well and really fleeced the Celtics in the trade, and it's funny to see an entire fan base be in complete unison, like a collective, like, because there's always some detractors who will play the devil's advocate, but I can't find anybody who's defended this trade yet, and I'm waiting. Oh yeah, other moves unrelated to players, unrelated to anything. Billy Donovan left Chicago because he didn't want to rebuild. What's he going to do? Becomes an assistant coach in San Antonio. I don't think anyone could have picked that. And Patrick Ewing will be back on the sidelines reporting to Brian Keefe and the Washington Wizards. Also, Steve Clifford, I believe, signed on as a consultant for the Wizards, which is funny. It's almost like you can see them making a plan B for when they fire Keefe for a slow start. Oh, we got Clifford, who NBA coach. He could just hop right in. Why not? It's easy. But other than that, I think we're just down to the tiniest handful left of players really available as musical chairs have run out. I'm going to share my thoughts on that in a second. All right. Much like last year, this year's free agency is kind of left headlined by one name. I know, no, we're not going to go Jalen Duren and his restricted free agency drama and all the other RFAs, and we're not going to say, well, LeBron's still the best, and where's he going to go? That's another topic for another day. But let's talk about Jonathan Kuminga. Yet again, his free agency is held up by, well, we can't do anything because there's a big name and we're going to sit there and we need to, everyone's going to be in a holding pattern trying to get their roster set to see what LeBron will do. Is he going to go to Denver? Is he going to go to Minnesota? Is he going to go to Cleveland? Is he going to go to Philly? Is he going to go to Golden State? Well, now all those teams aren't going to go sign Kuminga. So what do we even know about Kuminga? He's 23 now. Is that upside still there, or 5 years in the league, are we just now out? He's going to be what he is. We know his willingness to play defense and be a facilitator as opposed to the first option is not his preference. But is he the guy where, like, everyone's like, we have to wait on him like he's a huge piece? We know his time in Golden State was really tumultuous, and that was because of primarily the coach of Golden State, who admittedly said, I don't do well bringing up young kids. Okay, cool. Got to Atlanta, maybe was injured and then just didn't fit in at all, and then we're just going to not pick up his option, and now what do we know about him? Is this like how the Clippers were? Remember back, for all the old school fans, remember like in the 90s when the Clippers, early 2000s, when the Clippers would get their first round pick and you had them for 4 years and then you knew they would just sign elsewhere because they didn't want to be there. And you don't really know what you have with that player, but there's so much tape on him to show what he doesn't want to be. So I don't know, is it one of those sort of like he needs to go to a bad team and get a ton of minutes and then be the center point? Like if you dumped him on, Sacramento or Milwaukee and he could just sort of go off like Jordan Poole went off in Washington for his 1 year. And because, there's no, you can ball out when there's no expectations and nobody cares. And I mean, the Philly process and Michael Carter-Williams getting the Rookie of the Year and doing nothing since. Like, is that what he needs to become somebody? Or, like, is he a contributing factor? Because he was just really an afterthought at Golden State, and they tried to do him, and he'd play good for a game, and then the next game he'd get yanked, and then DNPs, and then just no consistency. Like, do you just need to bury him on Brooklyn between Randall and Porter and their 7 point guards for him to sort of find his home? Or is this kind of like Jonathan Bender's situation where, oh no, we've had too much and he can't do anything. And well, Bender also got injured and that was the end of it. But like, let's say like Rasheed Wallace, he needed to leave Portland for him to really come into his own. But yet again, he's held up and really it's not his fault. Like he's better than all the players that are left. I couldn't even tell you who's left. Like of the top free agents left, we're going to take out obviously all the restricted free agents. They don't count. And we're going to take out all the people who opted out and will re-sign when things happen, like Draymond and James Harden. So of the top free agents left, okay, other than Kuminga, we mentioned Rui Hachimura, who is the next shoe to fall. But after him, we're going to Chris Middleton, Russell Westbrook, Kevon Looney. I mean, Jet Howard hasn't even been picked up anywhere on a rookie deal. Jair Williams. Andrew's favorite, Doug McDermott, is 34 now, so I don't even think he has anything left. Bradley Beal, Ochai Agbaji, Bruce Brown. So there's not even anybody left on the unrestricted free agent market. Beal will probably go to Miami. Middleton will probably go back to Dallas, maybe. Hachimura is the only one who really can go anywhere as he provides big man depth. But yeah, we've kind of closed shop. So barring the next super trade that's going to happen, I think we're sort of wrapped up with free agency. All right, I got one more thought left. All right, Tim Hardaway Jr. reportedly signed with Miami. What makes this notable and what makes this sort of a big story? Tim Hardaway Sr., I believe, has his number retired for Miami. Tim Hardaway Sr. also said he's not going to unretire it for his own son, who's named after him. What is up with that? Like, that's just cold. There's a difference between, some other player wanting your number and then your own kid, whom you named after yourself, wanting your number. And then your reason is you want to preserve your legacy in Miami. You named your kid after you. How much more of a legacy do you like? That's just, man, that's cold. That's cold. You won't give your kid your number. This is all assuming Tim Hardaway Jr. asked for it. He could have just been like, they could have just preemptively said, hey, you going to give me your number? Oh, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm petty and I need to have my jersey up there. Yeah, you could bring it down for a 1-year deal and then put it back up there. Like, it's just a temporary thing. Like, they're not going to be like, oh, number's back in rotation. Any schlub could have it. All right, Dirk McGurk, the undrafted free agent from Baylor. Yeah, it's your number now. Sorry, buddy. We unretired it, so it's there. Like, what you doing, man? That's cold. Speaking of cold, I've had nothing but cold takes. I don't know if I've missed. I don't know who I've missed. I know that I think I got most of them. And presumably Andrew will be back when he gets his power back because I don't know. It's been a lot of me you've been hearing lately, and I know nobody's thrilled with it, and I apologize. But on a minor clerical note, this is officially episode 400. I mean, of content-wise, I think this is like episode 422 or 423, but as far as proper numbering, this is 400, and we were ecstatic to hit 100 because we didn't think we would even do that. We didn't even think we'd do that 10 years ago. We just did it, and then it kept going, and we kept going. And here we are now at 400 with just sort of me at the ashes of the end of the NBA season this year as we look forward to the chaoticness that will be next season, which is already shaping up as they put all the superstars in, just shook it out, and they all popped out elsewhere because you couldn't have told me Ja Morant, LaMelo Ball, Jaylen Brown, Giannis Antetokounmpo would all be traded within like a week. That's crazy. But nevertheless, I've always thanked you for listening. I do thank you. And all right, stay safe out there. Peace.